I use the word illusion quite a lot, as do most speakers about this. And I think it's a misleading word, but I still use it because language is so limited. Because as soon as you use the word illusion, the question is likely to come, so what is illusory? And with that comes the question, so what is real? And there isn't an answer. And you, most likely, like me, wanted an answer to that question. So I could say this is real, but whatever I say about it is illusory. And then we've really got nowhere, have we? And so quite often I think it's much better not to speak about this at all. And then the question comes, so why speak about it? Well, there's nothing else. The illusion is that there is something else, that there's anything else, even that there's nothing else. So if non-duality is saying anything, which is not, it's just pointing pathetically and inadequately to the simple, outrageously too simple obviousness that this is all there is. And it will do you no good whatsoever to ask the question, so what is this? Because there isn't anything outside of this. There isn't anything else. There is nothing outside. And of course, if there's nothing outside, there's nothing inside. Outside exists only with the conviction of inside. And you, what you've called yourself, what you felt yourself to be, is this illusory insideness. I'm inside. Everything that's not me is outside. There is no inside and outside. And what is this? This is what seems to be happening. So what seems to be happening isn't happening to you. You are not the witness of what seems to be happening. You are not the observer of what seems to be happening. There really is no location of what seems to be happening. You can tell a story of location, but what's happening over there and what's happening here aren't two. There's no separation. You can't find where anything is happening. You can't even say it's all happening in the same place. There's simply no location. And be careful who you say that to. It sounds crazy to most people. And I have no idea how, but it can just be that all location is seen to be illusory. And yet the ability to locate things in time and space still appears to happen, just the same as ever it did. It's just not believed. It has no substance. It's a story that makes sense of what essentially no one can make sense of. So we're trying to make sense of this mystery. This being alive, this aliveness. But you won't find the aliveness. There is only aliveness. If you find the aliveness, immediately you've stepped apart from it, which again is illusory. There's no one apart from anything. This really doesn't have any parts. And again, paradoxically, you can still locate and identify and discriminate between parts. So there aren't any things, but you haven't forgotten the names of other things, and there's still the ability to name them and talk about the relationships between objects. I've no idea how. I've no idea. And it can sound, and it used to sound to me when anyone spoke about this, well, they must be seeing the world in a completely different way. No, not at all. Everything appears as it appears to be. And don't kid yourself that you can know how it is for another human being, how the world appears to them. They can attempt to tell you, but it's a futile attempt. So one of the things that feels very loving is that I know I can't understand. I can't get how the world appears to you. The aloneness of this is undeniable. And it might sound very paradoxical, but when it's undeniable that you can never know another, you can never know another's world, because there really aren't any others. Whatever you think of others is simply, it's all imagined. And those with a very good imagination and very sympathetic imagination, we call empathic. But an empath is kidding herself or himself if he actually thinks that he knows another's feelings. There is no knowing of that. If you don't know yourself, you'll never pretend that you know another. And you'll never believe another when they say they know you. You don't have to tell them that, of course, but you won't believe it. So there's no getting away from the inescapable aloneness. Which can feel devastating to the one who always wanted to connect, to not feel lonely. I say aloneness because, and I don't say lonely, because if there is no possibility of knowing another, then there's no loneliness. Loneliness only exists, only seems to appear when there's this illusion that you could know another and you could be at one with another. Well, it's not possible. There are no cells to become one with each other. So I'm not surprised that this isn't popular. So that's the bad news. But that is the good news. There's nowhere to go. You can put all your escape plans to one side. They're fucking worthless. Where on earth would you escape to when there's nowhere else and there's no one who could escape? So all fantasies of becoming, because becoming is escaping. I'll escape from how I am right now to somewhere where I'm happier, where I'm more fulfilled, where I'm more at peace. Well, there isn't another time or place. You could say there isn't even this time or place. that might be going a step too far. But the peace that does pass all understanding, because you won't have a fucking clue why there is this peace, is because there's nowhere to go and nothing to be done. That doesn't mean they can't be going places and doing shit, seemingly. But all of that is unmoving. And if you think I've made sense of this just because I can waffle on about it, that's not true. There's no making sense of it whatsoever. This doesn't make sense. And the end of trying to make sense of life, the end of trying to understand, is the peace. But I wouldn't, you can't do anything about it, but don't kid yourself that you want that, because self doesn't want that. If you want something, it's always something else. Wanting is not this. Now, I'm not saying wanting won't still happen. Desire is totally natural. But there's a difference between wanting some food or wanting a hug or wanting to be warm than wanting to be enlightened. Wanting to be free. So no escape sounds negative, but of course there's no one in prison to escape. So the good news is the bad news. There's no one inside to go anywhere. There's no one to become at one with, whatever you fantasize that you might become at one with, whether it's a human being or nature or God. And so there are beautiful stories of oneness, you know, of becoming at one. But I don't speak of oneness because this is empty. And there can't be one emptiness. Emptiness doesn't have any boundary to it. So not even one. Well, that was all a bit gloomy. I think it's the jet lag. I'm blaming it on the jet lag. There is a thing about emptiness. Emptiness sounds, I mean, it's abhorrent. I was always terrified of the dark, of nothing. There's nothing more terrifying than nothing to self. I'd rather there be monsters. That's why I filled the emptiness with monsters as a kid. When I was lying in bed at night and there was the darkness and I couldn't see and there was just emptiness, I would much rather fill it with, you know, hands crawling up the edge of the bed to grab my feet. I'd fill it with all kinds of shit just so I wasn't alone. I don't doubt that most neurotic fear is just this aloneness, which is totally natural. And the wonder is that nothing is nothing to fear. Absolutely. There is nothing in nothing. It's not dangerous. Quite the opposite. But it is nothing.